we go. Here we go. Yes, welcome back, you lovely people. For those of you who are new here, my name is Neil Prasad. I'm joined with my colleague to the left, gentleman in the black sweater, Mr. Jason Rule. Jason, say hello,
everyone.
To the people.
Welcome
Jason
back.
and I are co-founders and creators of a podcast called Hustlemode. We've been doing and entertaining the peoples now for the past 11, 12 weeks. I've kind of lost count. It was an itch that needed to be scratched, and we were happy to deliver. For those of you who don't know, Hustlemode is a channel for entrepreneurs, movers and shakers, shot callers, and ballers, and everything in between. But no, seriously, folks, this channel is dedicated for aspiring entrepreneurs, people that have been in the game for some time, marketing professionals and influencers. We're here to help you scale up, level up, and make sure that you're on the right path in order to achieve your desired goals. From time to time, we're known to bring in some experts, individuals that are subject matter experts of their own domain. And today we're privileged to have none other than the one and only Mr. Kelly Farraj. Kelly, I'm gonna butcher your intro. So why don't you, as a way of getting started, as far as warming up your pipe, let the fine people know just a little bit about your journey. Maybe we can start in the restaurant side of things, and you can bring us up to where we are today.
Absolutely. So my name is Kelly Farraj. I'm Vice President with the Behar Group Realty. We're a boutique brokerage out of Toronto. We have a couple of offices, one in North York, one downtown Toronto on Duncan Street. The company's been in business for, well over 30 years. The founder, Yossi Behar, I think has been in real estate for probably like 40 years or so. Seasoned vet. I got to know the Behar Group through my real estate, through my restaurant journey.
We're gonna cut.
No worries, man. Yeah.
My son is. I can hear the pitter patter of the feet coming down the steps. So I just want. This is
No
gonna
worries.
be the first time. It's always something, Jay.
No worries at all.
No
So
problem.
I got to know the Behar Group through my my restaurant journey. I was one of the first franchisees for Cora's Breakfast and Lunch in Ontario.
Excellent.
And then from
I've heard of them.
Yeah, I think everybody has. And after that, I invested into a restaurant group out of Edmonton, Alberta. Grew the company to 29 restaurants. I invested when there was about 5 locations. Grew the company to 29 locations coast to coast, and sold my shares in the company and got into real estate full time. So at the time, I was doing a little bit of construction, a little bit of operations, a little bit of real estate, and I wanted to focus my my efforts on the real estate aspect of it. So I got licensed and joined none other than the Behar Group, who I've known for a long time now.
Kelly, let me just interject real quick. So, as you're wearing that cap and sort of juggling multiple projects, while being simultaneously a restaurateur, plus a father of 2, right? You had your kids by that time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they were probably, like where my kids are right now. So maybe toddlers or just a little bit older than that. What was it that actually made that flick of the switch for you to jump wholeheartedly into real estate?
Yeah,
you know what?
That tipping point. It's a good question.
I tell you, I think you alluded to it, talking about, your young kids. I think that was the tipping point to me. Like, I remember, I didn't see my daughter often. I was traveling, weeks at a time in BC, weeks at a time in Alberta, late nights at the restaurants. And I said, you know what, I gotta spend more time with my family. And the beauty of the real estate industry, clearly that's why there's, I think, like 70 or 80,000 real estate agents in Ontario,
and growing.
and growing. You know what, it gives you that work-life balance. There's times where it's really hectic, and there's times where you the time to spend quality family time. You could be doing business, sitting at a beach somewhere. You could be poolside. You could be going on a walk and taking calls, or you could just shut your phone down and go for a walk with your family, go out for a nice dinner, take a little break from the craziness of the business. You don't have to report to anybody. You don't have to, clock your hours. You have the freedom to do whatever you want, but you got to deliver result. As you guys know, we're commission-based industry, so the more you put into it, the more you make out of it. Simple
You
as
get
that.
what you eat.
Yeah.
Well, one other aspect, Kelly, that you didn't cover in your introduction that I know from just our personal conversations is the investor side of, Kelly's portfolio or Kelly's interests. We had some chats about some of the flips that you've done and some of the investment deals you've been involved in, more on the residential side and maybe even on the commercial side. But people are really interested in how those things come together, about deals that you've maybe been involved in, or lessons learned, things that you did wrong that you wish you did another way, things that you've learned along the way. But maybe just give the people listening, viewing, a little bit of an overview of the investment background and the investment journeys that you've had. And then we can kind of talk about individual, best deal, worst deal type of scenarios. But yeah, just give everybody a little bit of an overview on that. I'm curious about it.
For sure. You know what? As I got interested in real estate, it was really driven through what I saw in the residential market. And I remember, God, now it's been like 11 years ago, where my wife, we're living in Oakville, and my wife's like, it looks like Milton has some, pretty good brand new homes that we can upgrade to and grow our family into. So we bought our first house from Mattamy, pre-construction,
like everyone else,
like everybody else in Milton.
In Milton, yeah.
And we're like, man, this is amazing. $400,000 for a detached home. You design it the way you want. You pick your finishes that you want. So I went to a sales event, and they had hundreds of people lined up. And that was like the first time I'm looking at it saying, like, what's going on? Why is everybody lining up here? Because they were buying homes at really low prices. The homes aren't ready for another year or two. They're already built equity just by putting a deposit down.
Yeah,
a light bulb
construction game.
Absolutely. A light bulb just went on in my head. At the time, I called my two brothers and I said, hey, I'm in the lineup buying a house at Mattamy in Milton. I think you guys should come here and we should buy 3 houses instead of 1. And we did that. We bought a house and 2 townhouses. We hold them for a bit. You sell them, turning profit. We're like, this is a good gig. So every time there was a release, we did that. And
in Milton specifically, Kelly?
In Milton specifically, yeah. Like I've been in Milton for 11 years, and most of that, I did maybe like a flip in Brampton, couple of flips in, maybe 3 flips in Oakville, but most of it has been I did a couple in Etobicoke, but those are like brand new construction, tearing down a house and building a brand new one. But really, Milton was the bulk of it, and then we shifted our gears from looking at brand new construction, because I think the builders at the time started to catch up, saying, okay, when we're building a house and selling it today, we should be selling it at the price that people are going to get it in 2 years. So the margins got a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
Then we started looking at opportunities where, it's an older home, needs basic finishes, hardwood floors, needs, brand new kitchen, brand new washroom, beautiful light fixtures, something that just spruces up the house and make it look good and turn a profit. Did that as well. And that was, again, very, very good investment. So the latest flip was, not too long ago, bought a very old house, a little bit out in the country, bought it where I did not know that it was at the right time, but it happened to be the right time, closed on it last year. And I was able to flip it this year for pretty good returns, considering what's happened to the residential market, since COVID showed its face in our countries.
Yeah, no, that's a great overview of the journey. I think with the pre-construction, it's interesting because you're right. They did close the gap between the profits you can make, and like you're even seeing pre-construction homes now go for like 1.6, 1.7 million, whereas and they're not even built yet, and they're not even on premium lots, but they're reflecting the market now. So it's not so much in projecting maybe the 2 year out. With that, sorry,
Oh,
go
well,
ahead.
sorry. Let me just interject for a minute here, because like I didn't know Kelly had so much knowledge with respect to flipping homes and investment real estate, right?
Neil's interested
Um,
now. He's
you
interested.
know,
He's leaning
no, no,
in.
no. But before we enter into or delve into the little bit of the residential, I just want to
Yeah.
bring some value for our audience here, because for some, and I'm going to put myself in that position as well. Like, I mean, I consider myself to be somewhat of a savvy business professional, and want to ensure that I'm putting seeds in different buckets, so to speak, and
Yeah.
making sure that it's diversified. But Kelly, maybe you can help for those that are out there listening, watching, taking notes. What would you say would be a step-by-step approach that they need to be mindful of or consider when jumping into the investment? Because I mean, there's so many different opportunities, right? Like, you can invest in commercial property now. You could be an investment if you wanted to be a landlord, if you have the stakes or the means to have a tenant living with you. That's another type of investment, right? Like, you're leasing out your part of your home. Or you
Correct.
can
Yeah.
jump into having condos in sort of softer markets where you can sort of level up your game on that front. So in your humble opinion, what would you get, knowing the landscape that we're in, and we're obviously talking from an Ontario
Yeah.
point, but we don't have to. I mean, I don't know how fast your knowledge goes as far as cross country, this wonderful country of ours. But just talk to us a little bit, and for those individuals that are sort of thinking about the concepts, like, what should they do? What should they be mindful of? What can they get? How can they get started?
Yeah. How would you
Well,
recommend they get started?
my knowledge doesn't go too far outside of Ontario. I don't really follow what's going on in other provinces. I just know in general the market is hot across the country. But really, it all has to start with some capital or some equity that you can get access to. There's the saying where it takes money to make money. It definitely does take money to make money. You just cannot make good money without having some capital to start with. As an investor, you want to really have a good plan, understanding what your end game is. Is your end game, and Jason, I think you and I spoke a little bit about that. Would be great to invest in some apartment complexes. You're not going to make a lot of money on it. Month to month, you're probably going to pay your debt and make a little bit of money. But the long-term equity, leveraging that investment, today may be worth $1 million. 3 years from now, may be worth $2 million. You can pull your equity from there, invest it elsewhere. My advice would be diversify as much as you can. So, don't put your eggs in one basket. But if your eggs are going into real estate, spread them out a bit. Maybe invest in a rental property, or maybe a mortgage helper. I did that as well. I bought a house and I finished the basement and rented the basement as a mortgage helper. It helps. There's no question there. But if you can do a little bit of everything, the market is, I'm not going to say it's fragile, but those real estate prices that we're seeing, are they sustainable? In my opinion, they're not sustainable. Somebody who's making 80, 90, $100,000 a year, how do you go buy, Jason was talking about $1.6 million house from a builder, or $1 million townhouse in Milton? That's unbelievable. And it blows my mind. But going back to your question, I think diversify a little bit. If you're going to flip a home, you got to make sure you have the right trades. You can blow all your budget on trades. You could waste a lot of your time from, inconsistency with contractors. Are they able to come in? Are they not? There's headaches that come with it. You got to have a tight schedule. You got to stick to it. Every month you're carrying a debt, it's costing you more and more money. You're losing some of your profits. So you just gotta make sure your cash flow is tight. You gotta make sure your pro forma is tight, and you gotta stay on top of it to achieve the results within a certain time frame.
Yeah, no, that's great sound advice, Kelly. The biggest thing that I took from that is the diversification aspect. Real estate is one of those aspects where you can get into joint ventures. You could own a portion of something. You can own 25% of something, 50% of something. It's not an all encompassing where I own 100% of something. That's how I've chosen to build my portfolios. I had a partner or have a partner where we've bought some residential condos and everything's split, right? So half the risk, half of the liability, half of the work, but also half of the benefit when the thing sells, or half the benefit of the equity that we're building in the place. So, there's different plays you can have as it relates to real estate, and not be, like you mentioned, like having to run the full deal yourself and be a full owner, full landlord. There's other joint venture type of things that way. Have you in your career done any joint venture partnership related things, like with commercial or residential, aside from with your brothers? But I guess it's technically joint venture.
It is, most my residential real estate investments have been with family. We have a good setup. It's safe, it's sound. We got along. It's been making sense. From a commercial perspective, it's funny, when I got into real estate, my end goal was I want to buy some commercial properties. Did we lose Neil?
Yeah, we lost Neil. He'll come back in a second.
I wanted to invest in some commercial properties. I know the returns can be pretty good. Again, it gives you the freedom. If you bring the right tenants in, you could pull your money, deploy it somewhere else. But I tell you, it's been a tough journey from that respect. Over the last 6 years, it's been the commercial market has been so challenging to invest in. I mean, we have a lot of international money, as you guys know. A lot of money's coming from Asia, a lot of money's coming from India, and people are coming here to a certain extent, parking their money. Safe investment, safe country, great country to invest in. But they're buying stuff at much higher rates than you and I would want to buy it at, because we're trying to make it work for us, not just park our money. So it's been challenging.
So we're just pulling that thread a little bit more, because again, I'm interested in commercial just from a personal perspective, and hopefully some of our listeners as well will have an interest in the commercial market. You mentioned it's been challenging, and is it challenging from finding tenants, or like you said, is it challenging in the sense where if I want to buy a building that is zoned residential, it's going to cost me significantly more than it should, because I have either multiple competition from overseas and foreign investors who are looking to park money, or the valuations of those buildings and those properties are just so high because it's a supply and demand. Like we had conversations about Milton and finding buildings and rental space and any commercial space in Milton, and it being such a tight market. Is that a supply issue in your opinion, or is it just really have to do with the fact that you're getting foreign money being parked and then they're just driving up property values, or all of it? Like, what's your thought?
It's twofold. It's a supply issue. So what we've seen over the last 7-8 years, that the residential land value, and again it goes back to your point that if Mattamy selling homes or builders selling homes for $1.6, $1.7 million homes, that's because their acquisition price for that land has increased substantially as well. It's not all profit going in their pockets. So the number one competitor that I'm seeing right now competing with my commercial developers is the residential developers, because they're able to buy for higher prices, because they're able to put more density on the property. So now you buy 2 acres and you're able to put maybe 50 or 60 townhouses. You flip them, you build them, the demand is there, people are going to buy them, they buy them, you take your money and you go on to the next project.
A plaza, on the other hand, that's 2 acres, you get 15 stores in there and a parking lot. And how much money can you glean from that investment versus?
I mean, you got to think your rate of return based on what you're paying for it is about 4%, which is not good.
No,
but the equity that you're going to build is what's good. So you look across, not just Milton, across Ontario, you're not seeing anymore your your horizontal open air centers. You're seeing vertical centers,
Yeah.
and that's,
Gotcha.
a commercial investor cannot pay so much because all they could build. So let's say on an acre, you could build 8,000 square feet of commercial plaza. That's like 5-6 stores.
Yeah. Top.
But a residential guy can build those 6, 7, 8 stores on the main floor, and then build maybe 5 stories above that. Sell the 5 stories, keep the commercial. A commercial guy cannot compete with a residential guy.
Yeah, but aren't you
That's
seeing a
interesting.
trend right now with commercial properties doing that same vertical growth? Like there's medical plazas and work live spaces, right? That are sort of being the trend in the downtown core that are now starting to sprinkle out sort of outside of that core.
Absolutely. I got many examples of that. I mean, look, Square One, there's going to be a bunch of high-rise condos in the parking lot of Square One Mall. So that commercial landlord, Oxford Properties, now they're going to build, rental purpose condo towers and some condos to sell. Sherway Gardens are doing the same thing. Smart Centers is doing the same thing in Cambridge. Hespler Road, 24 in the 401, where the Walmart is?
Yep.
That's going to be all high rise, accessible off the highway. We know everybody's migrating west because they can afford to buy homes there or
stretch your feet
condos. So that's really what's yeah. So we're seeing it everywhere. So again, a commercial developer like Smart Centers. I mean, look what they did downtown Vaughan on Highway 7 and the 400 area where the subway
right at the top of the subway. Yeah,
unbelievable, that development. When they bought that land, they were not thinking we're going to build condos. Actually, I'll tell you a story about that one. When the owner of Smart Centers bought that land from a farmer, he did not want to buy the whole 100 acres. He only wanted to buy 25 acres or so to put a Walmart on it because he had the connection with Walmart. And the farmer said, you buy it all or none. And he's like, I don't want it. Like, it's useless. And what happens, 20 years down the road, the government's knocking on his door saying, hey, we're bringing the subway here. He's like, ching, ching, just cashed in big. I'm glad I bought that 100 acres, right?
Yeah.
So, we're seeing some unique stuff out there that's been happening in Toronto for years, but now it's going outside of the city.
Yeah. You're seeing, like, even here in Milton, you're seeing these gigantic buildings being proposed. Like, I think they have like a 49-story building coming in like a town, not even a city of Milton, by the GO station. I'm surprised they haven't started trying to put a multi-level parking. If we didn't have COVID, they probably would have a multi-level parking garage or installation at Milton GO station, just because the density, you get there after 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. you're not getting a parking spot.
It's unbelievable. I mean, look, even in Milton, anything from, I think, the GO station parking lot and west along Main Street there, where the Rona used to be, all that vacant land there, that's going to be high rise.
Yeah.
It's already zoned for that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the city bought, I think the city sold a couple of parcels of land there for high rise developers. Yeah.
So what's the land play, Ike? What's the land play? Let's put on our our time machine, right? And figure out, like, I'm not looking at Milton right now for a property, right? If I can get a Sarnia property or sub low rise, that seems to be a worthwhile investment right now. But, if we're starting from scratch and we want to look at, 70, 50 acres, 100 acres, where should we be looking at?
Sudbury?
No, I think you gotta go far. But you know what? I'll tell you, I think your play should not be, 70, 80 acres. Your play should be something in the range of like 2 to 10 acres, a little bit further away from obviously the GTA, but try to find, Main and Main. If you can secure a corner property, again, between 2 to 5 acres. I was doing some research for one of my clients yesterday.
Sorry, you lost me. Main and Main?
As in, like, a main intersection, just on a main intersection, where a gas station, even though who knows about the future of gas stations, 10, 15 years from now.
They'll be charging stations anyway. So
they'll be charging stations.
Everything will be a charging station. Yeah. You got it.
But if you can find a parcel of land on a corner, you pick it up. If it has an old beat up house, buy it. If you can rent the house, just rent the house. and hang on to it, there's going to be a huge demand for that. You know, the McDonald's of the world and the Burger Kings of the world and all these quick service food service guys, they will eat that stuff up, and you can get some high premiums from all of them because their business, you know, they cannot go at the base of a condo tower. You can't do a drive-through at the base of a condo tower. You can't vent properly at the base of a condo tower. All these types of users, and their business is thriving now more than ever with COVID, and their business, I think, will continue to do very well. They need open air space, and the market is very competitive in that category, especially the drive-through category.
Now, those type of investments and that type of access to those properties, is that pretty exclusive though to a certain level of investor, Kelly? Like, for example, if I had a couple $100,000 and I wanted to get into the market and do something like this, I wouldn't be able to just, you know, roll up and buy, you know, a nice parcel of land and kind of play in that space. It's a pretty exclusive level of investor that can employ, that can do these strategies. Is that fair to say?
No, not really. Actually, it's surprisingly, yeah. No, I like that. Surprisingly, guys, you know, the big developers are not looking at that. The big developers don't want, you know, 2, 3, 4 acres. You know, it's not their cup of tea. They want something big. If they could bring a grocery store, the rest will follow. Right. But, you know, you're not going to need a grocery store in a 10, 15,000 10, 15,000 population town. But you're going to need a McDonald's, you're going to need a Wendy's, you're going to need a Burger King, you're going to need, you know, Barburrito, you're going to need all of that. So again, I was doing some research a couple of days ago for one of my clients. And, you know, I looked at some properties, you know, like 2-acre property in 2016 that, you know, sold for $650,000. Not far from here, guys, Brampton, kind of like, you know, along Mayfield. But that same property now, 2 acres, if I knocked on their door and offer them $3 million for the 2 acres, they won't sell it.
Entertain you. Why would I do that?
Because a commercial acre, guys, right now in the GTA is going for at least $3 million.
Right.
But it's not worth $3 million to a commercial developer, because the tenants, as much as, you know, they're paying you top dollars, but at $3 million an acre, it's not worth it for commercial use. They're selling it at a higher density price.
Yeah, which is
Kelly, you know, I really think that we should look at we should really look at a master class where Jason and I are bringing in some quality individuals into your funnel and talking about an investment strategy that's going to be worthwhile for their kids, to make sure that they're setting them up for the next home purchase. Because I can only think about what's going to happen when my 3 and 4-year-old are looking for a home in the next, you know, 20 some odd years. Like, they're going to be living with me till they're 30 or 40.
No kidding, man. If you don't buy them a house now, they're never going to get a house, right?
No,
Go ahead.
It's an interesting dynamic, because I was even looking at a property this weekend in Hamilton, and it's right by Mac, where my daughter goes, and she already had committed to another property or another residence with some of her classmates. So she's already, you know, done for the year in terms of paying for the rent and all that. So I wouldn't be able to get her in the house this year. However, looking at the prices in Hamilton, just around student housing, for a unit that you know, I would potentially buy for, it's like 900, right? And it's a 3+4, right? But separate meters and all that. So it looked like it was a good setup. But I could have probably bought that place in 2019 or 2018 for, you know, $599 or $699. Like, the appreciation, incredible. And even on the street that she lives on, there was a few houses that were for sale, student houses, and they're marketed properly. Like, they actually list the cash flow opportunity in the MLS listing. So, you know, if you bought the property, you could cash flow fully $200 a month and all that other good stuff. But a lot of them are in disrepair. Like, the one that I was looking at was like a fully renovated spot, which had a nice main floor. It was kind of like live upstairs, rent downstairs type of scenario. If you were like a young couple, or like you said, what did you call it, Kelly? Have the people below you pay your mortgage. What was that called?
Mortgage helper. Mortgage helper.
Yeah. So it was one of those type of scenarios where you could put somebody in the basement, or 4 people in the basement for that fact, and then they'd pay for your $800,000, $900,000 mortgage. But the other thing that I was curious about in this market, since you're doing a little bit of residential and a little bit of commercial now, and helping your friends, colleagues, whoever buy residential properties through your own kind of Kelly branded dealership, brokerage, or what have you, on the residential side. What are you finding in that market? Like, what are your clients complaining to you about? What are they struggling with? What are kind of some of the obstacles that you're helping your clients either overcome or helping them deal with in this residential market? Because the residential market, and we'll be talking a lot about commercial, is on fire. So what are you telling your clients? Like, what are clients asking you to help them with or to get them through? What's that all about?
So the number one question that you're getting from your residential clients is, okay, so I know what they're listing this house for, but how much is it going to sell for? And it's funny. It's like, I've spoken over the last 6 months to so many residential agents, specifically in the Milton market, and we're talking to each other. We're like, we really don't know what the value of the house is, because people, sometimes you talk to an agent and they say to you, I did not think we're going to get $1.3 million. My client even thought he was going to get just $1 million for his house or her house, right? So it's also, it seems so fake, so not real. But the number one challenge, guys, which we all know it, is lack of inventory. There just isn't enough inventory for the buyers to choose from. So imagine if you and your family sold your house and you got to close on it in 2 months, and you're really desperate to buy a house because you're not going to go rent. You don't want to do that to your family. You'd pay $50,000 more, $100,000 more, $150,000 more. Why? Money is cheap right now. You're borrowing money at less than 2%.
Yeah, 1.4, 1 point, whatever.
If it's a guaranteed mortgage by the government's advertising them at a 1% interest rate, right? So money is cheap. You'd pay the premium just to settle down and say, you know what, this big weight's off my shoulders.
I got it. Yeah, no, I was in that boat as well. Yeah.
You don't want to go every weekend look at houses and get disappointed. You see a house and then, you see there's 10, 15, 20 offers and you don't get it, even though you deep down inside you're overpaying for it.
Yeah, but you're seeing 10 offers.
Well, but you got to do it.
Is that partially, and again, everyone has this debate, whether it's the agents playing the list it low, have multiples, sell it over asking game, or is it really just indicative of the market being that red hot? And to the point you just made of the fact that the psychology around it, people are like, well, if I don't go over asking, I'm going to lose. And I've lost 3 others last week. So I'm going to balls to the wall on this. I'm going to pay $150,000 over asking. Example, in my neighborhood here, we had a house go for almost $400,000 over asking.
What was it listed for?
$2 million. Went for 2.4.
I hope I don't offend any agents, but I think a good agent, guys, and that's just my own feel on it. You don't price the house too low. I mean, look, we can all play the game of the Price is Right, where like $1, and you know that you're going to get it, right? Because everybody overshot their guess on it. But you don't price the house at $1 and sell it for $3 million. Say, oh, I sold it for $3 million over asking. Wow, nobody's going to believe that. I think you price the house where you feel the market is right. So the last house that I sold, I just sold 2 houses in the last 2 months. One of them, my client's like, I want to get this number. I said, we'll start with this number then. I believe you'll get it. If you get more, that's great. The house needed work. The house that I flipped, I priced it at the price that I would have been happy with the returns at I think I priced it at 1.349 million. I sold it for 75,000 more than asking. I've spoken to agents about that specific house before I listed it, friends of mine, and they said, I think you should list it for 1.199. And I said, that's too low. And they said, well, you'll probably get more offers on it. Well, to me, it's not about the number of offers that I get. It's about the quality of the offers. And believe it or not,
Agreed.
I had offers below asking, and agents knew that I had overwhelming showings. I think I had in 4 days, like almost 50 showings.
Oof,
and they still came in at low but I respect them for that, because they said, you know, this is what we believe this house is worth, and that's what they came in with. But you get the buyer who falls in love with the house, gets emotionally attached to it right away, and they see themselves that this is their dream home. And I don't fault them for it. We did the same. You probably did the same when you buy your recent house, right?
Yeah, 100%.
You say, you know what, this is a home that I'd love to see my family and I getting comfortable in. You pay more because, again, every 100,000 is worth maybe $300 a month now, if not less. So it's not a big deal. Cut back on Starbucks and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah,
that's what I say to my wife.
That's a lot of Starbucks, buddy. That's a lot of Starbucks these days.
It is.
You know, for a guy that's keeping an eye out on the marketplace, you know, it's very challenging to say, okay, you know, a couple 100,000. Anyways, you know, really good takeaways here, Kelly. You know, I'm sure that it's going to be an ever evolving marketplace. If you had to put your, I mean, because you're around other conversations surrounding real estate, and you know, within your circles, if you had to put a predicament or a forethought, what do you think is going to be this bubble bursting? Like, when do we hold off, right? Like, the bubble is supposed to be bursting now for the last 15 years. So is the bubble going to burst, or is it like you just better hurry up and get on that horse and pay that 1.9, $2.4 million home that Jay's living in? Like, what do I got to do here? I got to sell a kidney or what?
Absolutely. Yeah. Listen, I think something's going to change. I do believe once, you know, COVID is going to make a big impact on our economy. It's made an impact, positive and negative so far, but I think we're going to see more negatives out of it once, you know, the government subsidy programs are over, and that's probably going to happen maybe like September. I do think a lot of businesses are hanging on by a thread because the government's giving them support, rightfully so. If they don't let them open their business and operate their business and make their money, they got to support them. So I'm glad that the government's given some support. But once that support is gone, I think a lot of people in the commercial field, businesses, are probably not going to stick around. I think our unemployment rate, those are my predictions, our unemployment rate is going to go up. And I think there's going to be a bit of a correction then. I think if you can sit tight, you may be able to get a better price on a house, you know, 6 or 8 months from now. That's what I think.
Or commercial property.
Commercial property, I would think possibly, as long as it doesn't have future residential redevelopment plans.
How do you know that?
I think most of the time it's you gotta talk to the city, local municipalities, and understand what the future plans are for certain streets, certain intersections, certain areas, and you know, they're very helpful, very good. You can call city planning at any municipality, and they'll tell you really what the plans are, and you make your decision from there.
Yeah. They can be zoned. They can be zoned for that 1 year and then change it next.
They can, but our cities are not making plans 1 year at a time. Their plans are in longer increments. They'll tell you what the vision, what the future will look like. Could there be changes? Absolutely, but they can, and they tell you what they will support and what they won't. I mean, I make these calls almost on daily basis where, hey, I got a client's interested in this property. What can we do here? And they say, don't touch it. Well, they say, this is what we'll let you do.
Ordinarily, it's what, a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan? Like, what are they?
I'd say three to 5 years.
3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that's what cities plan. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I think you mentioned that before, Kelly. It was kind of a funny conversation when we were just chatting about little parcels of land around Milton, and you were pretty much like, yeah, nope, there's a Volkswagen dealership going there. Nope, yeah, they're building this here. And I guess based on that research, you're able to predict, or not predict, you're able to forecast a little bit to your clients, who I think one of your core businesses, aside from on the commercial side, is finding clients with franchises, like actual either physical bricks and mortar buildings or units to move into, I guess, long-term lease and those type of things. So that side of your business, I guess, with COVID is probably slowed down too a little bit, right? Look, are you still getting the foreign buyers or the franchise locations saying, hey, thanks for helping us find something for our ice cream shop in Oakville. We want to move into Milton. Help us find a location, Kelly. Like, how's that business going?
So that business really slowed down. I mean, it went, guys, from million miles an hour. Like I remember when COVID first hit last year in March. As you guys know, I represent Orange Theory Fitness across Ontario. I had 21 deals in the hopper that I was negotiating on. We ended up closing only 2 of those deals because, you know, the fitness industry just went
away,
halting stop, right? Like it really went away. So the entire business really slowed down for about 6 months. My goal was to stay connected with my clients, act as an advisor. I mean, you know, I'm not just a real estate agent anyways, guys. I'm an advisor to all my clients. They bounce ideas off of me. I bounce ideas off of them. We're partners in the business. It's not like, Kelly, you just want to collect your commission. Here's your commission. No, I'm your partner in your business. I never say you, I say we. I use the word we all the time. I'm their partner in their business, and they respect that. But I tell you, over the past 6 months, the industry has been on fire. You cannot find 1,200 square foot space to lease anywhere.
Really?
Those vacancies do not exist anymore. There's competing offers on them from a leasing perspective because your bar burritos and your, you know, Coffee Roll Express and your Baskin Robbins, your Holy Shakes, and they're all expanding because their business has been so successful with COVID here. Because remember, if you're not going to the Keg and spending $300 once a month or whatever your favorite restaurant is to go out for a nice dinner, now you're doing 4 $50 takeout orders from all the usual suspects, right? So their business exploded. So now there's a huge demand. Like I've put offers on 1,200 square foot spaces, and the landlords tell me they had 15 competing offers. They had 100 showings on that unit.
That's great news.
Wow.
That's very good news.
So that business now is coming back. You know, it's all smaller footprint. So obviously the fees with it are smaller as well. But where I've put some effort and energy in is, you know, the land acquisitions for, you know, strategic clients that, you know, want to build their own units, lease some, use some for themselves, or investors that are looking to buy a piece of land. You know, people out there are looking to sell. The problem is they don't know what their property is worth. And that's why, you know, you should always seek a real estate professional, because they're going to give you some market intel that's going to help you make the right decision. You know how many people, I'm going to use the example, the plaza that's on Derry and Ontario Street, the one with, God, what's
Derry,
with Laziz Shawarma in the drive-through building there.
Yeah.
You know, somebody picked up that plaza for $8 million a year ago. If the owner of that plaza, prior owner, sought the advice of a real estate professional, I would get them a buyer today that would pay them over $20 million for that plaza as it is. So look how much money they left on the table because they didn't want to pay, you know, a 3% or 5% fee to a couple of brokers to help them through the process. It's crucial. And I wouldn't be surprised if they can get 25 million for it. I'm not kidding you, because you could build high rises there because they're doing it kitty corner.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, for the savvy professional on that
spot.
front, especially that property there with the high rises that are coming across that kitty corner, that's going to be a gold mine for a lot of QSRs, right? So a lot of your clients, that would be a welcome addition. So maybe you can hurry up and put some work on that property for us. Listen, I want to be respectful of your time because we've been at this for some time now. But it's a conversation that I can continue.
Oh man, this is my passion, boys. This is
It's your wheelhouse, as they say.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like,
that's
we're
yeah,
right
it's,
in
it's
there.
it's
You
in
know,
my
if
wheelhouse.
you're just checking in and you're catching us, or even if you've joined us and stayed with this conversation thus far, you're probably getting exceptional value from the discussion, and hopefully your pen still has ink in it. Hit that like button, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell if you're viewing us on YouTube. Make sure that you're kept in the loop with regards to any future episodes that are coming down the pipe. Be sure to comment down below. Are you an investor? Are you looking for commercial real estate? Are you finding that it's difficult to find a quality professional or advisor to talk to? Are you looking to scale your business? I know some clients that are looking for warehousing. Are you seeking a retail environment that you need to help, and you need some suggestions on what you need to do in order to get the ducks all lined up? You know, Kelly's contact information is going to be included in the description box down below. And I'm sure that he's always open and interested to talk with like-minded professionals. Again, Kelly comes at a premium with respect to not only his knowledge, but also with respect to his time. So I do encourage you to reach out to him and find out whether or not it'd be a right fit, because it's all about fit, right, Kelly?
Absolutely. It has
Yeah.
to be the right fit for all parties, guys. You know, I mean, think about how you conduct your daily life. You know, you hang out with like-minded people. You build relationships with people that you enjoy their company, and it's the same in our field. You know, you gotta enjoy. You know, if Neil calls me, I know I want to have a good conversation with him. If Jay calls me, I may answer my phone, I may not.
Depends the topic of the day. If I'm asking for free advice, who knows?
It's that fadeaway shot, man. I'm still bitter about it.
Or lack thereof, you mean?
I'm going to be practicing. I'm going to be practicing for the re-up, for the invite to the outdoor action.
So listen,
but no,
go ahead, Jay.
No, I was just going to ask Kelly about the network, and you know, then we can kind of get to your thing. I was just curious, Kelly, in your travels, and as you've built a breadth of knowledge, and as you've kind of conducted deals, and you have like you mentioned in a few different times, you have people who come to you or investors, and I don't know if that's part of the Kelly brand or part of the company brand, but have you sort of stitched together a consortium, a group, sort of a club of investors? So for example, the deal falls in your lap. It's something that Kelly himself can go talk to people through his network, or are you very much kind of focused on throwing those people into the funnel of your employer? Like, how are you set up in the sense to take advantage of opportunities that are not indirectly related to your source of employment, or do you kind of have a independent broker type of setup with them where it's Kelly and this is my brokerage that I belong to, so I just run some of my stuff through them, but yet I'm still my own kind of entity? So multiple questions in there, but
yeah,
just kind of curious how you're set up.
Yeah, these are great questions. You know what? So the beauty about the brokerage that I work with, the Behar Group, is that they funnel business to their agents. When their phone rings, they see who's best suited for it, and they pass on the message to whoever they think is the right fit for it. So when I first joined the Behar Group, a lot of my business came through them. They taught me, Greg Evans, one of the owners in the brokerage, he would always say to me, when you're driving around looking for space for, call it Sport Clips or Sally Beauty, it's like, you got to look at every vacancy as an opportunity. Don't just look for that 1,200 square feet because that's what that tenant is looking for. Look for every vacancy, look what's missing from every plaza, and generate business by finding opportunities and call the right people to fill these opportunities.
It's great advice.
So that clicked. Knock on wood, I've done very well in the retail leasing segment. There's no question. But over the years, I've also built a portfolio of, as you were talking about, groups of people. If I find a piece of land, 100 acres that needs, won't be ready for development for 15 years, well, I have a group of people that look for banking land. If I'm looking at a piece of land that's worth $20 million, I have few developers that's in their wheelhouse. If I'm looking at something. So I have a group for every different scenario that I come across. And you know what? We look at, the beauty of real estate that, as you're driving around, you could be writing down addresses of opportunities that you think are good for something. It can be a hotel, it can be a car wash, it can be a gas station, it can be retirement residence, it could be student housing. My first sale transaction, I sold a piece of land in Oshawa to a student housing group. I noticed it was close to the two colleges. Like, that's the best use for it. There was the ability to put density on it. Made some phone calls, found a group that was willing and ready to pull the trigger, and did that transaction. So you always see opportunities in real estate, and the longer you're in it, the more opportunities you see. It's really there's no limit to real estate.
That's why Kelly and I get along so well, because the hustle mode is always on, right?
There you go. Hustle mode is on, boys. Hustle mode is on.
It's similar to advertising sales, right? You're always looking for what the opportunities are, right? Kelly mentioned like those 1,200 square foot facilities are, sort of out and coming. They're small potatoes for him and his business as far as who he's working with, but the upside is that's going to stimulate and jumpstart the economy, right? So it's the cookie crumble, right? So those smalls are going to lead to biggers. Those biggers are going to lead to guys that are doing sort of the footprint that scavenges the actual or surveillances the land. And then next thing you know, you get a McDonald's on the corner, and then everything blows up. Or you get a Starbucks on the corner, and they've done all the evaluations and they know what the outcome is going to be, and then everything blows up, right? So that's why I like chatting with Kelly, because like he's the forethought as far as what's happening, plus his conversations in those arenas allows us, when I say us, other business savvy individuals, to take a holistic approach on how we're pursuing different business opportunities, right? But Kelly, definitely, you know what, if anything, there's definitely a side conversation or an offline conversation that we have to have momentarily, because there's some things percolating in my mind right now that I think we should be looking at a little bit closer. But Jay, I think I can see the wheels turning in your head. So you had another question for him.
No, I'm just about real estate investing opportunities. I think that's something that there's still a conversation pending. So Kelly, I owe you some conversation about that as well, because it's just, I think to your point, like you're limited only by your imagination and maybe your appetite for risk, but also your creativity in the space, right? Like if you want to get started, there's multiple ways to get started with real estate, as per our conversation way back at the beginning and how you get started that Neil brought up. That you just have to get started, right? Like that's my opinion. If somebody is catching our pod who's young and up and coming and they want to get involved in real estate, there really is no limit to the creativity that you can try to put forth, and really no limit to some of the opportunities you can pursue. And again, you don't have to be an agent, you don't have to take the courses, you don't have to do that right off the bat, but get the education, get the mentorship, and then go from there. Right.
So Kelly, let me ask you something. Is there anything that's anything on your agenda or sort of your checklist that you wanted to get off your chest, or since you're on the soapbox right now, that you want to delve into that we should find insightful for the audience today?
The one thing we didn't talk about is industrial properties.
All yours.
Oh, please tell me more.
And I think that's probably the one category that shocked people the most. I get clients that call me up and say, 7 years ago I sold my 40,000 square foot industrial building for $70 a square foot, and I was so happy. And now you can't touch anything under $400 a square foot. So believe it or not, like the industrial rental rates and purchase rates have really borderline, what grocery stores are paying for rent in a premium. When you think of, Longo's, for example, and, a Longo's would pay, $20 a square foot in rent, if that, right? You can rent industrial spaces and get more money than that out of them these days. It's such a competitive market.
Why would you even open a store or a restaurant? Like you just get a big building with a shell.
But yeah, you can't. I mean, you can't build. You can't, for the most part, you can't put restaurants in them. They're way cheaper to build than your typical retail plaza. So as an investor, if you can get your hands on industrial space, the demand on it's going to be huge. It's going to be way cheaper for you to build and maintain because it's all prefabricated construction versus how much it would cost you to build, you know, a Longo's 50,000 square foot grocery store or superstore. Or
Yeah, but
Shoppers Drug Mart.
isn't the liability and insurance going to be sort of heavier on an industrial than it would be on a retail?
It depends. I mean, yes and no. You know, a grocery store is going through so many people, so that the insurance is not cheap either. And also on top of that, you're able to utilize more of your land. So when you look at your commercial plaza, basically there's guidelines on how many parking spot per 1,000 square feet you need to service that plaza. But when you're buying industrial land and putting an industrial building on it, the parking is very minimal. You just need some parking for the staff. So the parking ratios are substantially different. So it's cheaper to build. You could build more density on it, and the rates are increasing by the day.
And that's a supply and demand issue, really.
And that's supply and demand, guys. We're talking. I'm seeing industrial buildings selling for $100 million. Like, we're talking big numbers. I mean, look along the 401 corridor.
Yeah.
Along the 401 corridor, there was some industrial buildings with 1 million square feet of industrial space that are already leased up like this. That's really? a lot of footprint to fill. But
million square feet.
Million square feet
leased up.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's a growing trend, right? Anything along that 401 highway, sort of from KW onwards, or even from the border, come down.
Sure.
Like, it's all industrial, it's all big box warehouse, right? It's all logistics companies, right? So it doesn't surprise me on that front. What does surprise me is the price point, like 100 million. Like, geez, you know, I'm in the wrong business, man. Every time I talk to Kelly,
building leasing.
Every time I talk to Kelly, I shoot myself in the foot. Like, I'm always thinking.
You question yourself, Neil. You shouldn't question yourself.
Well, the journey's not over yet, Jay.
No,
so
Jay, it's funny you mentioned you should be an industrial building leasing agent. When I got into this business 6 or 7 years ago, you know, I started thinking, I'm like, you know, where do I go? Do I go into, you know, the commercial retail? Do I go industrial? Do I go office? You know, the industrial segment, there was really no money in it. There was a lot of money in office, but it was boring. And, you know, the commercial retail was, and it still is the most fun one. You know, it's never a dull moment. It's entertaining.
Dealing with people.
Yeah, you're dealing with with different people. The industrial segment, people are making a lot of money in it right now. But again, it's probably not a lot of fun. Like, I've done few, you know, small industrial leases. It's cookie cutter stuff.
But an industrial lease, so correct me if I'm wrong. So an industrial scenario would be somebody owns the building and they own the land. They've done that investment in building those two pieces, and then a tenant who is a logistics company, a warehouser, or whatever, would lease that building out from that company or that developer builder, and then they would have a term lease on that. So as an agent or a lease person in the industrial space, broker, thanks Neil, you would get a piece of that lease in that term as part of your commission, or you would get it, I guess, as a regular real estate transaction where you get your commission based on the amount of the lease.
It's basically percentage. It's a percentage of every year's lease, but you get paid that all at once the transaction closes.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Kelly. Ordinarily in a industrial lease scenario, what are the common plays for the tenant to be leased at? Like, is it a 5-year play, 10-year play? Is it on an annual? Does it really vary? Like, what's the norm?
No, you know, the norm, if you're looking at a smaller industrial unit, say under 8,000 square feet, you're looking at a minimum 5-year term. But, you know, the big logistic companies, you know, the GFS and Gordon Foods and all these big companies, these are doing, 10, 15, 20-year leases, or at least 20 years worth of options. They may start with a 10-year lease and then have additional options to expand into them.
So you're seeing a high demand for industrial units now across the Ontario landscape. Are there pockets that you're concentrating these initiatives on? What are the growth as far as an investor mindset looking at?
Well, it's tougher now to get to make really good money on these industrial properties, because I think, man, the ceiling cannot go any higher, in my opinion. Like, you can't be paying more for these industrial buildings than what they're selling at. I think that people made their money already. If you can find, vacant land that's zoned, employment industrial, that's a great play, because you build it, you could pre-lease it, you build it on spec for whoever is looking to get in there, and you just hand it over to them, and you got money from the bank coming on your guaranteed lease through probably a strong covenant. But they're tougher place to do. You're talking a lot of money now for the land, to build it, to lease it. It's not as easy. But I was just surprised on how the prices went up for industrial spaces over the last 6 or 7 years. Mind blowing.
Yeah, and definitely you can't build industrial buildings everywhere. So it has to be very regionally specific. Like, you're not building an industrial building in the GTA, in Toronto for that matter, Toronto proper. They have to be in the outskirts, your Mississaugas, Bramptons, Milton, and they have to be in a strategic corridor, right? So it's a very specialized niche market almost, where you can actually build these things, and also where tenants who need this type of space have to locate. That's why, you look at Mississauga as one of the big growth engines of Mississauga was the industrial buildings, right? Because Mississauga was always a suburb of Toronto. So you see a lot of head offices have their warehouse and their office in Mississauga.
It's very, very easy for you to sort of let that roll off your tongue very casually. But if you remember Mississauga, as though Mississauga square one was farmland, bro. Like, none of that stuff existed, right? 30 years ago. It was one lane in, one lane out, man. Route 9 was the only bus that was getting you from point A to point B. So that's why I want to have these types of discussions, and people should be thinking about it, because, I think as you get older, you want to look at the long-term play, right? Like, anyone that's entertaining these types of discussions is not looking at least in my network, is not looking within the GTA, right? Like, I'm
correct.
You're looking at, like, Shellville or Sherburne, or
Shelburne.
Right? You're looking at Caledonia, right? Caledonia is the next sort of the blip on the map, right? Or they said it was going to be Paris, Ontario. Paris is already passed, probably.
Okay, right? Paris,
So, like, I was having this conversation. We were having this conversation just the other day about on the outskirts, right? So that's why I think it's critical, right? Like, a subject matter expert like yourself, Kelly, having these conversations with larger brands, multiple franchisee sort of operators and owners, but then also having the discussion with independent mom and pops on the other side of the coin. You start to pick up trends, if you haven't noticed already, with respect to the forethought about what's the next wave coming through or coming in. And that's why I was saying that there needs to be a side chat or an offline chat with respect to potential, seed planting that could be prosperous, for yesteryear. But even having a network of individuals that want to reach out to you, who are like, okay, you know what? There's new parameters that are coming into play with the housing market. Like, you're going to have to sit on that house for a year before you're going to be able to sell it. So the buy now, flip later, before the concrete's dried, that play is over with. Like, that's going to happen soon, momentarily, if I'm not correct, right, Kelly?
It's possible,
with the HST, right?
Yeah, they're talking about a few different scenarios.
Once you get into the capital gains sort of side of things, and then you look at all the time and your money's tied up and this, that, and the other, you're like, okay, you know what? Buy the land, build the land, talk with a guy like Kelly. Let's get some people into the mix that can actually be a tenant for those particular opportunities, right? And we already know, or we're going to know, the zoning, because he's already in the mix. Like, that's just a smart conversation to have. So,
Got it.
You know, you see all of these, you know, there's a couple of investment property, commercial, industrial property investors group that are coming out, and they've been around for a while, right? I'm not going to name drop anyone because I'm not going to give them any free advertising, but I think there's an opportunity here to exceed and look at that long-term play. Because honestly, Jay, I mean, I don't want to be looking at it for me, trying to figure out what the property is going to be for my kids when they're looking at university and be caught in that scenario, so to speak. I want to have that chapter close before they even exit high school, right? So
Yeah.
I got, like, you know, a little bit of a short window of play
You have
for
more
me to figure
time.
that out, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I surround myself with people that are smarter than me. So we'll see
It's all
how
about the network,
this
man.
conversation goes. But without any other sort of lingering last minute chats, Kelly, you got anything else on your checklist?
No, I think I'm good, man. It's great to catch up with you guys. I know most of our conversations are not focused on business. We do a little bit of fun stuff and a little bit of business. So this has been great. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you for joining us. This has been enlightening, educational, as well as it's been very insightful. There's a lot of markets now that I want to look more into, and you know, we have an expert on the team with yourself, Kelly, that can guide us through any of these questions. And I know I've leveraged you before for some of the wild ones that I've had and places that I've tried to buy. So, you know, definitely it's an exciting time to be in real estate and an exciting time to be an investor in that area of the economy. So
Absolutely.
that's where it goes.
Awesome. Well, listen,
Anytime,
guys,
boys.
if you got value in tonight's episode, please do make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell, leave a comment below if you have any burning questions around the Ontario commercial, residential, or industrial real estate investment opportunities, or even if you're looking at a land acquisition, or maybe you have land and you have questions and you want to talk to an educated broker. Please do reach out to Kelly directly and see if he could be of service, or perhaps someone on his team might be able to assist you. You know, we want to leave you with some hopeful, insightful wisdom, but I have nothing. So I'm just going to say peace out.
I like that.